Welcome to Illuminati Silver. We tell you the truth about silver. Today is Tuesday the 3rd of August 2021 and we're publishing our regular morning update where we look at the latest news headlines, economic reports and precious metal prices. Today we see that gold has pipped up and silver has pipped down and cryptos have taken a hit overnight. The news so far is more interesting than the economic data we've received. So let's take a look. Well, good morning, Tuesday morning, 9:37 a.m. GMT +1, 3rd of August. And yes, the sun has come back out. Maybe that should be the main news on Bloomberg. But there again, in the United States, you either have hurricanes, tornadoes, snowstorms, flooding, or heat waves. Here in the UK, we have sunny weather and wet weather. And that tends to be about it. New SEC boss wants more crypto oversight to protect investors. And this comes out at a time when Bitcoin was rallying, according to many analysts, going to reach all-time highs anytime soon. And then this news comes out. We'll have to just a 10-second or maybe 30-second look. New SEC boss wants more crypto oversight to protect investors. The nation's top securities regulator has unusual expertise in digital assets, but he says he is no cheerleader for them and has no time for a Bitcoin ETF. I'll read the first paragraph and that's it. It's become a parlor game in Washington, on Wall Street and in Silicon Valley to figure out where US Securities and Exchange Commission Chair Gary Gensler stands on cryptocurrencies. Industry lobbyists tune in when he testifies before Congress. Lawyers pass his speeches. Goldman Sachs Group Inc. wealth advisors recently boasted in a research report about looking for clues in 29 hours of the blockchain and money course he developed at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. That's an arduous but perhaps not novel undertaking, since videos of the classes have garnered millions of views online, something that amazes even Gensler. I'll read this paragraph, I fibbed. In his first extensive interview about the digital money craze, Gensler signaled that his deep interest in the subject doesn't mean he is simpatico with the hands-off oversight approach that many enthusiasts would like to see. Now let me stop there, because as we know, at the moment Congress is contemplating passing a bill that will impose various taxation constraints on the trading of Bitcoin and potentially the mining of it too. Policymakers have struggled with how to respond to the most unregulated $1.6 trillion market, which has seen explosive growth and wild price swings. Gensler is contemplating a robust oversight regime centered on establishing safeguards for the millions of investors who've been stocking their portfolio with tokens. Do you love that word? They call them tokens. Some call them coins, others call them currencies. While I'm neutral on the technology, even intrigued, I've spent 3 years teaching it, learning into it. I'm not neutral about investor protection, says Gensler, who on Tuesday will give a speech about crypto at the Aspen Security Forum. If somebody wants to speculate, that's their choice. But we have a role as a nation to protect those investors against fraud. Now, bearing in mind that I come from a banking background, I understand that point. Now, I also understand the fact that the banking industry will want to protect itself and sees cryptocurrencies certainly as a means or potential means of avoiding bank charges and regulation. But then on the other side of the coin, if I purchase cryptocurrencies, I'd be pretty browned off if someone stole them and I had no recourse, as you do with certain degrees of bank accounts. Now, if they all go bust, then you lose it all, admittedly. So there has to be, in my view, a balance somewhere. Where that rests, purely determined by one's individual thoughts on liberties and freedoms, and avoidance of the grid. Exciting stuff. BMW warning on chip woes overshadows strong earnings. The car maker sees tense months ahead because of the global chip shortage. And of course, if this Delta variant widens, becomes more pernicious, or even additional variants coming out. We've heard overnight that Senator Lindsey Graham, in spite of having 2 vaccinations, has now tested positive for COVID. Or I believe the Delta variant of COVID. It doesn't mean you're totally protected. So the best way, to some degree, is to maintain some distance, though it's very difficult when you want to open up an economy. And this is now the dilemma. If this really does take hold, will we see regulators again imposing further restrictions? And all that's going to do to microchips is make them even more scarce as businesses fail to open, or people fail to transport these items, which is what, to some degree, we're currently experiencing in the UK with the fear of food shortages. Not because there is no food, but because there's a lack of drivers to courier them. We shall wait and see. Turkish inflation jump wipes out most of real interest rate. I won't go into that now because, frankly, it is a lesson for us, but the Turkish economy doesn't impact on ours hugely, but it does point to some lessons. So if you get a chance, have a look at it. Maybe we'll do a video on inflation and interest rates, or real interest rates, and we'll bring that into it. Okay, what's happening on the BBC? Return to the office would help Young, says Sunak, the Chancellor. Now, this is the guy who's in charge of our finances in the United Kingdom, says being in the office helped him build strong relationships when he started out. This is because the fear of people not wanting to go back to an office environment. New Greggs stores set to create 500 jobs. The bakery chain swings back to profit and says it plans to keep expanding on the high street. This is essentially a sandwich shop at quite reasonable prices. Talking of victims and banking, I had £9,000 stolen from my bank account. Scam victims are having difficulties getting bank support after losing cash, Consumer Group, which says, yes, but there is the compensation scheme. There are various protocols in place. But of course, banks, like insurers, don't really want to pay out if they can avoid it. China brands online games as electronic drugs. In recent months, Beijing has cracked down on China's technology and private education industries. BBC, United States, Canada fines travellers for fake vaccine papers. Goldman raises pay after 95-hour week complaints. Yes, the young bankers were complaining. And this is very similar to the medical industry, certainly in the UK, where junior doctors seem to be working enormous hours, while then the consultants and professors and heads of medical departments are just doing a normal job, earning huge sums of money. Or at least relatively speaking. They're far bigger in the United States. Reuters, China quietly sets new buy Chinese targets for state companies. Tencent vows fresh video games, since we're talking about them, curbs after media attack knocks shares. And incoming Iran president says he will take steps to lift tyrannical US sanctions. What's happening to the markets? That's why we're here, really. But the news seems a little bit more interesting than the markets today, to be frank with you. Dollar index marginally down, but is now at 92. We can see oil prices have dipped. They were mid-70s as of Friday. They're dipping slightly to early 70s, 73 for Brent and 71 for WTI. Equity markets yesterday broadly unchanged, although we see bits of red here. We're talking at 0.25% or less for the American markets. Asia Pacific overnight down a little bit more, closer to 0.5%. But this morning trading so far in Europe and UK marginally up. We're up 0.3%. The other indices are French, German and Euro cousins are up a little bit less. Actually, I tell a lie. The French are up 0.74%, so they're up a little bit more than us. Okay, what's happened to economic news? Well, yesterday we had the market manufacturing PMI and the ISM manufacturing index. The one was higher than expectations and higher than the previous month, and the other was lower. So what you draw from that, they're so close to expectations. The difference really is not that noticeable and not that impactful. Construction spending, though, had improved, but not as much as the median forecast predicted it would for June, up 0.1, whereas expectations were up 0.5%. Now today we have factory orders, core capital goods orders, and motor vehicle sales. Now we've said all along Wednesday, Thursday and Friday will be the three most important days, probably with Friday as the most because we've got the non-farm payroll. But we can't ignore these others in the interim. So we'll be keeping an eye on those. What's happened to gold? Well, it's currently over the last 24 hours up $2.94. It's 18.10. It's been as high as 18.19 and as low as 18.06. You see that little peak there on Monday, but it has since fallen back a little. Silver price hasn't fared as well. So looking at gold, up 0.16%. Silver, though, is down 0.20%. But again, not of significant figures to be unduly worried, though we do see a potential slight squeeze on silver until we get some economic data that is much lower than market expectations. So we can see a definite downtrend. Chartists will love this downtrend for the day. And cryptocurrencies, well, Bitcoin took a bit of a hammering over the last 2 days, down 2.5% over the last 24 hours, and Ethereum down 3.5%. It took a huge dip last night, and that's GMT time. Came off over $140, which was quite a big fall. It's recovered it a little bit, but although it's up on a week, it's down on the day. That's it for now. No more to say at this stage. We're waiting for economic news to come out, and the crypto world is in a state of indecision. Thank you for listening. If you like what we do, please give us a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't, and press the bell sign. Meanwhile, have a great day. I'm off to enjoy the sun. Disclaimer. Illuminati silver owners come from a background of banking, international wealth management and economics. Having now retired from these worlds, we are not qualified to give investment advice. Therefore, this and other productions must not be deemed to be giving such advice and merely represent the personal views of its owners.